Poised for Exit is a show for business owners who want to achieve a successful exit based on their own terms. Your business exit will likely be the biggest financial transaction of your life, and for most, you'll have one shot at doing it right. The topics and guests we feature and the stories they share will provide valuable ideas and strategies to improve operations and grow enterprise value so you can achieve the best possible exit outcome. Now here's your host, award-winning certified exit planning advisor, Julie Keys.
Welcome, everyone, to the Poised for Exit show, the Exit Planning Podcast show. We have two guests today who are going to discuss with us the benefits of professional collaboration, especially as it relates to exit planning for the business owner client. Now, this is a topic that I know that I've talked about many times over the years in this show, how important professional collaboration really is and the benefits to the business owner more than anybody, of course. We've talked about it, like I said, a lot, but today we're actually going to be sharing some stories and illustrating how and why it works so well for the business owners. But first, let's hear from our show sponsors. Are you a business owner getting ready to transition? If so, I recommend True North Mergers and Acquisitions as your confidential strategic partner. They understand your business sale isn't just about one buyer and the price, but what you net that counts. In other words, what you get to keep. When you're ready for a higher level of representation that delivers consistent results, contact True North M&A to do the heavy lifting of selling your business. Learn more at tnma.com. That's tnma.com.
Exiting your business is a big deal, both financially and emotionally. I'm John Marquet, certified exit planning advisor with TrustPoint. We help business owners transition smoothly on their terms. Our focus is on maximizing value, minimizing stress, and giving you confidence in what's next. Whether you're selling or passing the torch, we make the process seamless. Start planning today at trustpointinc.com. That's trustpointinc.com.
For business owners, it can be overwhelming to start planning a transition or exit strategy, but it's so important to avoid unwanted outcomes and unexpected tax bills. The CPAs at JAK, John A. Knutson & Company, can guide you and help make sense of the numbers. Our firm was established over 90 years ago, and we've assisted countless companies with ownership transitions. Leaving your business is a process that takes time. So contact us today to discuss your situation. Visit our website at jakcpa.com. That's jakcpa.com.
My name is Todd Crow, and I'm the president of the Twin Cities Exit Planning Chapter. If you're a business owner and advisor and want to learn more about the world of exit planning, you're invited to visit the Twin Cities chapter of the Exit Planning Institute. You can expect top-level education delivered by subject matter experts at every monthly meeting. Grow your network and draw from the learning that could be a game changer for your business or your practice. There's no pressure to become a member, so come and see what the buzz is all about. Our meetings are held the second Wednesday of the month, 7:30 to 9 a.m. See the show notes for more information and registration links.
Hello, Poised for Exit listeners. We are here today with Michael Hubsmith, president of True North Mergers and Acquisitions, and Mark Cheeley, president of Synergy Wealth Management. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Julie.
Thanks, Julie. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. So good to have you back. You both have been on the show before, but not together. So this will be a new experience for us, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Well, and like I said in the show opener, the topic that we're going to be discussing today is professional collaboration. And for those business owners out there who are listening to this particular episode, I want you to have your ears on, people, because this is one of the make or break situations when it comes to a successful exit and having the best possible outcome is using and utilizing the expertise of your collaborative professional team members. And Michael and Mark are going to share some stories with us today, right, guys? And talk about the process and how that looks and why it's so important for collaboration when it comes to exit planning, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's start off by maybe just explaining, how did the two of you come together as collaborative team members? How did you meet? And then how did you decide to work together?
Can I take that, Mark?
Sure, go for it.
We met each other probably about 15 years ago at a 7 a.m. boot camp at Lifetime Fitness.
Okay.
Where we were desperately trying to get our lives back in order through physical fitness. And we seemed to spend more time socializing and with a group of other guys and talking about lunch and happy hour.
Hey, that
But it was a
works.
lasting friendship from there. And when I joined TNMA, Mark was nice enough to invite me to his business network group, BNI. And we just, started having more and more conversations about what Mark does and what I do, and just seeing where that intersects. And we can, as friends, be very helpful to each other, but as professionals, really help people achieve success.
Were you still leading your company at that time, Michael?
No, I had retired for 3 weeks and then
3 whole weeks.
3 whole weeks. I got back into the game just because I needed more to do than talk to the dogs and watch daytime television.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Wow. Well, okay. So as long as we're talking a little bit about what the two of you do, maybe we could spend a minute or two, each of you just highlighting, what you do. And obviously both of you work with business owners, but from a different capacity. Mark, why don't you start with that?
Sure. At Synergy Wealth, what we do is we do full service financial planning. So we start with that with the relationship, and we make sure that we do comprehensive planning. I think as you've seen, there's a lot of different ways that people do financial planning in the business, and some are to sell a product and gather assets. Ours is a true standalone financial planning process that regardless if we would get the assets or not, we want to have a process that brings a lot of value to the client. So we'll go through that full service financial planning process, and that would incorporate other professionals as well. And so that's where we typically start out, and then that's ongoing. We'll typically go through that process at least every 12 months. And then the semi-annual meetings will kind of button up the to-dos or the hot topics that a client has, and work with other professionals along the way.
Excellent. And you work with a lot of business owners.
Yeah, it's gotten to be our expertise, which is great.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I remember you and I met many years ago because we had a mutual client, and that was how I first got to know you.
Yeah, we got to work on a case together right away.
Yeah. And how about you, Michael? Tell us all about your work.
Yeah. So True North Mergers and Acquisitions, we were spun out of Sunbelt. We have, in total about 70 people in our firm, really focusing on exit strategies for business owners. And we will go from Main Street businesses, typically revenues under $5 million, all the way up to, with True North, up to $150 million. So the blend of Sunbelt and True North, we meet a lot of different types of business owners, a lot of different circumstances. But there's always a couple of basic questions that they're all asking themselves when they meet with us. One is now the time to sell their company, which we like to respond with, what we do the day after we sell your company. And then two is how much is their company worth and how much would they get to keep after the transaction closes? And that's really the beginning of it. And that's where I think what Mark's work and our work really intersects is we're both really focused on the business owner, both their emotional journey as well as their financial situation.
Well, for sure. And that was kind of going to bring me into my next question, where we talk about the fact that most business owners have their nest egg tied up in their business. And many times they don't really understand that planning for that liquidity event needs to happen well before the liquidity event. Yes. And knowing that the two of you work so well together, this is, I'm sure, something that you can advise your clients of, Michael, when they don't have a relationship with somebody like Mark. Sometimes they've got like a company that manages their 401k, but that's not their financial planner. And that's something that I talk to my clients about all the time, because I say that somebody like Mark is the most important person at the table. You and I are going to be there for a spell, right? But not Mark. He's going to be there for a long time. And knowing like the holistic view, what the owner really needs and wants. So Mark, maybe you could speak to that situation with the nest egg and liquidity events.
I mean, I really think, to both of your points, that the earlier people start on getting ready for a business sale, probably a lot sooner than people think they should, is so important, because there's only one chance to get this right. And there's a lot about, how much money are you able to put back in your pocket at the end of this, and planning up front is what really puts that more money in your pocket at the end. And we can potentially talk about a case that we're working on together, but, working with a business coach and a financial advisor and, a mergers and acquisition person. But what I've seen is that the financial advisor is a little bit more constant in that relationship than some
Right.
other professionals. And there's a lot of people that might come out and give them different ideas along the way, and that can get them off track. And so as that financial advisor, not only letting them know that they're going to be okay financially, which gives them a lot of peace of mind emotionally, but also we've got a plan drawn out to make sure that after the sale happens, you're going to be in a good spot and taken care of, all the way to talking about what are you going to do with your life afterwards. So making sure that, we're working with these other professionals, whether it be an accountant at, Michael's team is great at even recognizing and knowing what to do on the tax side, whether it be a 338 H10 election or 368F reorg or a 1202 for a C Corp. I mean, some of the things that a business owner would never even know are out there are really what's going to put them in a better spot long term and give them peace of mind knowing that that team's in place and they're taking the right steps.
Well, and that kind of emphasizes what Michael said at the beginning, right? How much do they actually get to keep, right? That business owners want to know. It's like not necessarily just the top number, but right, Michael?
Yeah, no, and I would just add a little bit to what Mark was saying, in that, in business and life, trust is everything. Building trust is the most important thing. Having trust breeds confidence. And that for a business owner is huge, right? Mark comes in with, he said holistic, but it's really a very family type relationship with most of his clients, where he knows where the kids are going to school, how much time they have left, what the spouse's name is. I mean, knows them so much more intimately than we do, that he brings a level of trust that just makes that business owner feel so much more confident that he's getting the advice of a group of people that are in Mark's trust circle.
Yeah. The trusted advisor. That's really all three of us are, that's what we aim for with our business owner clients. So definitely. Now, I know that you have different stories that you can share because you've been working together as collaborative partners for quite a while. Maybe you've got a couple that you could highlight that, that really stand out. That would be helpful for our listeners.
I'd share one, Mark, if you're okay with this.
Yeah, go for it.
So Mark introduced me to a client of his about 2.5 years ago. And we started working with them, and Mark was right alongside at all the early meetings. And as we started to dig into their company, we could see that there were some accounting irregularities in the way that they accrued payroll. Payroll was a very significant element, and it would be an issue when we went to sell the company. But the two individuals were very much committed to, yep, we're getting to the end of the road here. We want to sell this company, to the point that they were ready to sign an engagement agreement and a retainer at the last meeting. And I leaned across the table and I said, we're not going to let you do that. Much to their surprise, we're not going to take your company on because we think that you're going to leave a lot of money on the table if you go to market today. And more importantly, I think, you've got to work with us, with other trusted advisors. In this case, it was an attorney, it was a CPA, and of course it was Mark. Let's build a strategy. And, literally, we probably were in market with this project. It will probably get 5 times the amount of consideration that it would have if we had gone to market 2.5 years ago.
Wow. That is significant.
Yeah, just to add on to that, that's why you want to work with a trusted professional, right? Because on the financial plan at their valuation a couple of years ago, they would have been perfectly fine to retire. But when we work with a good team, and Michael helped identify some gap areas that, increase the business valuation, and to an amount that's a life-changing amount. So it's just the fun thing of collaborating is to see cases like this.
Yeah. That no doubt about it. So what else? What else have you worked on over the course of the years you've been teaming up?
Yeah, we've got a couple other ones that we're working on right now too. And every situation is definitely unique. So one right now has an amazing kind of social media following, but there's a key employee, and I know that Julie, you've worked with a lot of people, and when that key employee is gone, if you don't plan on having somebody in place to replace that key person, that the valuation could go down. So we're definitely working with that company right now on how to make sure that that person that's been such a a key player in that business can be replaced. And
Mhm. Yeah. Some of the clients that I'm working with right now are using AI to solve that problem, which is another topic for another show, but it really has made a big difference in being able to capture that intellectual property that tends to be locked up in the heads of those key people that have been with companies for such a long time, including the founders, right?
yeah,
So,
it's interesting.
yeah, yeah, it really is. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit here and let's talk about, Michael, your crystal ball first. We'll start with you. What does the rest of 2025 look like? And are we still in a seller's market? And what are some of the things that buyers are looking for now that they maybe weren't looking for a year ago?
Sure.
Because I know there's a lot of people. I just read your most recent newsletter, and I know that you've got, because the stats, lots of pent up demand. And 25 is expected to be a good year for M&A.
It is. I mean, there are so many different factors that are at work here, right? I mean, one is that silver tsunami, the business owners that are, baby boomers or late Gen Xers who are now coming into an age where they're, hey, I'm done. My kids don't want it. I don't have an employee that I can sell it to. Can we take it to market and transition ownership? Or to your point earlier, Julie, so much of their wealth is tied up in the company. They need that for their retirement. And so that dynamic is still out there. It's survived all the way from, because it's such an important demographic, and it was not really impacted by COVID and by post-COVID and now going into a new White House policy making environment where there's more uncertainty. These people still need to exit their companies. And so
Yeah.
the challenge is now the right time. And we are seeing a lot of M&A activity. We're seeing strong buyers, but very discerning buyers. They're looking for revenue generating profitable businesses that can be an accretive investment. And so they're picky. The buyers are picky. They are asking a lot of questions. Due diligence is taking longer. There's more scrutiny. We're seeing, from our end, we have to do more upfront work. We have to condition that company even more to get it ready to go to market so that it stand up under scrutiny. But as far as activity goes and valuations go, that money is waiting to be deployed. It's whether it's institutional money or it's private money. They're looking to invest, and business owners are looking to sell. Now it's just a question of what are the valuations and interest rates. As we all know, the last 2 years, 23, 24, interest rates have significantly impacted the leverage that can be put on a acquisition strategy. We used to see 4 times leverage of debt to equity. We got down to like 2 times, kind of coming back in at about 3. But that's a very important consideration for how much somebody can pay for the company. It's literally the bank is now limiting the value of the company based on the way their lending practices.
Sure. Well, and that impacted the outcomes for those sellers too, which maybe some of them just said, hey, I can't sell right now because I won't be able to support myself.
Right.
Right.
Unless we can do a good job with making deals.
Sure.
If we can leverage terms that are favorable to the seller and reasonable to the buyer, we can protect the price or even get a premium for the business and hopefully maybe mitigate some taxes along the way.
For sure. And it sounds like you're going to be in a better position this year to do that.
Yes, we're very optimistic right now. We're very bullish, and we're seeing the activity. We've got the results coming in.
Yeah.
Our team here, we're almost at capacity in terms of what we're working on.
Wow. That's exciting. Super exciting. Mark, how about you? I want to hear about your take on, how the economy is going to impact, the capital markets perspective, because we've had some volatility, which, we always have volatility, right? There's economic cycles, and sometimes it seems like people just forget that we have them, but we do have them. And you've probably been a little bit busy these days, but you've got plenty of owners that you're working with, I know. And so tell us, what are your recommendations and what are you telling your clients right now?
Yeah, first of all, I'll second everything that Michael said. But to add on to that, we're seeing a lot of people, a little bit more emotional at this point because we're right in the middle of the tariff talks, and we've just gone through a couple of really volatile weeks in the market that have really set some records that we haven't seen since the 1920s, the 1940s. But what we're talking to people about is working with things that they can control. And, with rates being a little bit higher than they were a couple years ago, I think, as Michael mentioned, the due diligence process and assembling that team now is even more important to make sure that when you get into a situation where they would do a purchase, that they can't poke holes in your business. So getting a business valuation done every year, doing financial planning, and start taking steps to increase the value of the business. And those are the things that you can control. The short-term economic conditions are right now very hard to figure out which direction they're going to go short-term, but we came into this with a very strong economy, and so we're able to weather the storm. Believe it or not, inflation has started to come down a little bit. So, I mean, we're just going back to making sure that we can focus on the things that people can control and increase the value of the business. And as Michael mentioned, there's plenty of buyers out there that are still willing to pay a good value for that business. It's just the process of tightening everything up and doing the right thing, I think, is even more important right now.
It
It's
really is. Yeah. I'm
the other
sorry.
thing
Go ahead, Michael.
I just want to add on to what Mark is saying. This is another way where we intersect. Right? I mentioned negotiating terms, favorable terms for the seller. Mark and his team can look at these terms and apply them to that financial plan
Yes.
and illustrate to the client, yeah, you know what? You'll be okay with this.
Yes.
We didn't deliver the wheelbarrow of cash at closing, but there's obviously a very significant percentage coming at closing, but these terms will actually help you, and we can figure this into your long-term financial plan. And I would say, Mark, if you agree, 9 times out of 10 better off, because we've been able to collaborate together and putting a deal structure in place that isn't just an instant gratification. It's going to pay off over 5-year horizons.
Yeah. I mean, of course, it's just, and, just the timing of making sure that they go to market at the right time based on the work that they've had to put in. But we do run multiple scenarios with their retirement projections and retirement income planning so that they can see the impact that which route they go on the deal, what the outcome would be. So it's been very beneficial to work together to take the information that they're doing and the deals that they're working on and putting that into their financial planning software and showing them the outcome.
Mark, when you're doing those scenarios, are you identifying not just a wealth gap sometimes, but also a value gap? Like, do the two of those correlate many times? I'm assuming they do, but not always, right? So if the value in the business is usually or needs to be the nest egg, which kind of, ties into the fact that they don't have what they need.
Yeah. I mean, we'll always identify what that wealth gap would be. And you see a lot of different things, right? With a business owner, sometimes they're high income earners. And there are times that we have to say, okay, you're going to have to live on a different dollar amount than what you've been used to from the business. And, but that's where we really dig in and talk about lifestyle and help figure out if they can live the lifestyle that they would like. But yeah, that's a big part of what we're doing. And then talking about what does lifestyle look like and not putting numbers necessarily to that, just talking through it and talking about, do they want to take more vacations? Do they want to volunteer? And then allowing us to put numbers and thoughts to that to make sure that they can live the life that they want. But yeah, identifying that wealth gap is a big part of the process.
Well, and sometimes they're a little bit afraid just to back away from the business. I'm sure Michael sees this too when he's putting deals together. And I like to tell the clients that I work with when I sense that there's that resistance, that it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It's okay for you to stay in the game, right? You can take some chips off the table. You work with someone like you, Mark, and Michael, and me, and we help them put together a scenario that makes sense for them.
Yeah, still worked in the business afterwards, or even taking equity in the business. And there's so many different ways to make
so many ways.
Yeah,
definitely. Well, guys, it's been so nice having you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us today. And Do you have any last parting words or thoughts or advice before we close down?
Well, I would add that, I mean, Mark said it earlier, but I mean, you only really get to do this once as a business owner, building that,
Usually.
building that trusted team and having that trusted team that can collaborate with each other so that you really build the A team when you're ready to make your exit. It's so critical. And the earlier we can get to know the client together, Mark and I, the more effective we can be. And we've had many living examples of that.
Yeah, I would add on to just don't wait to put that team together. Start doing it earlier than you think you should be doing it, and you'll be in a better spot.
Good advice. All right. Thanks again, guys. Michael, Mark, so good to see you. Thanks for being on the show. And thanks to our listeners and our sponsors. We really appreciate you. Please join us again next time.